Do you think landlords should be open to being lenient on rent in a crisis like this, pending proof of lack of employment? Why not? My landlord in Seattle offered to defer rent if need be. I like her. Seattle's mayor just banned evictions for the next month. Even my insurance company, Geico, just let me know that if I can't pay on time it's cool. You know shit's getting weird when your insurance company is getting empathetic. My country did the same but also froze all property taxes and mortgage for 3 months to pass coronavirus. Did they also freeze the interest on the loan or just payments? This is what is going to happen. The government is going to have to bail everyone. Otherwise the landlords will be hurting as many still owe a mortgage to the banks. Edit to say I am not a landlord. My rent was due to go up $100 this month, just got a notice on my door that due to the coronavirus, the owner of the property is delaying the increase for 2 months. It's not anything spectacular but it's something and I appreciate it. That's really nice honestly smiley face. We got a notice to vacate because the owner's son wanted to move in 6 weeks. Like 3 days ago. I mean on one hand it's fine, on the other, finding houses is hard enough in the best of times, add a virus on top of it, it's going to create all sorts of issues. I think you're entitled to compensation, check up your real estate laws because in Canada you can't get kicked out unless you agree. What does your lease say? Is your landlord breaking it early? If so, they can't do that without your consent. Lenient on rent. My landlord is going to have people in and out of my apartment all week, trying to sell it. They're going to steal your toilet paper. Cough like you've never coughed before. The economic effects of this virus will be felt for a long time. Creating a wave of homeless people will not help the situation. Creating a wave of home foreclosures will not help either. If only there was an entity that was supposed to help citizens and prevent catastrophes like this. Regardless of rent being forgiven, the cost of rent is going to crater as many renters will be losing their jobs over the next 12 months. The home foreclosures are going to happen. It's the first thing I told my tenant, I am not rich by any means but I won't starve if she pays 2 months late because of the crisis. Peas, I'm in Italy. The world needs more landlords like you. I am in France. We have a law here that forbids removing someone from their rented home during the winter months. Last week President Macron just extended that grace period for another 2 months. Edit. By now I have seen countless versions of the "but what about the landlords who have bills to pay?" Please stop asking this and go through the thread as I've answered it a few times. I don't expect to answer it again. Edit 2. Upon request, here's one of them. https://www.reddit.com/r/askreddit/comments/fianox/ do you think landlords should be open to being /fkn9ob/? So do a lot people just stop paying rent during the winter? Depends on the bank. Landlords usually have the place mortgaged so they need to pay the bank bi-weekly. If the banks would be lenient then it would be possible for the landlords to be as well. Then you have to factor in monthly hydro, water if these are included in rent. Unless these companies are also lenient then all this would be coming out of the landlord's pocket. Edit. 1. I am seeing a lot of misinformed accusations with obvious lack of knowledge. Owning a rental unit does not mean you do not owe money on it. It is likely mortgaged and the rent goes to paying that mortgage for the rental home. It is a long-term investment. No one is making money from the rent. It goes to pay all fees needed to make it a rental property. Mortgage to pay the bank, emergency funds for repairs etc. Pretend you own a home instead of renting one. You still have a monthly fee to pay to the bank unless you own it outright. Which means the bank says, fuck you, pay me. I live in Canada and these are the rules that are needed to be followed if you do not want your mortgage defaulted on. And landlords aren't all mega core. Some landlords own one property and are also eating shit on the monthly cash flow. Ask me how I know. Edit. In my experience, I've have to drop rent to a low amount to find tenants that aren't fucking losers. It's a nice, new condo, but goddammit, the retards I've had in there sucks ass. There are millions of awesome tenants, but I'm convinced that there are far more tenants who are deadbeat losers that I want nothing to do with. They have shitty jobs, their credit is beat to shit, and they have the IQs of goldfish. I'm able to avoid this by renting for $200 less than market. My current tenant is fucking awesome. Thanks for posting this on behalf of small landlords everywhere. Disaster relief is the government's job, and no country should have to rely on the charity of landlords for people to survive. This is absolutely the correct answer. I'm not a landlord, but I am a small business owner, and if my employees need to take weeks off because they are ill, it will literally bankrupt the business if I choose to pay them that whole time, which I probably will. We should have a system in place that doesn't depend on the charity of landlord to avoid homelessness. When the shit hits the fan, some landlords will be lenient, some won't be able to afford to do so, some can but won't help, but as a whole it won't make enough of a difference. I'm a landlord and fall into the won't be able to afford to category. I'm not a corporate owner. I simply started renting out my home when I moved out. The rent covers the mortgage and that's about it. I'm not making bank on this. Tenants don't pay rent. I can't pay mortgage. I could swing it for a couple months maybe, but that eats thousands of dollars into my personal savings. Maybe I should be more generous. That's very possible. But it's all a lot more complicated than landlords are greedy. Although I'm sure some are. I've done my fair share of renting and some landlords suck ass. Deleted. I lived through Katrina, and back then the bank let me skip 2 monthly payments, extended the mortgage by 2 months. It helped so much. My girlfriend did property management and worked with a lot of owners, and there were 2 very distinct types of owners. Assume $2,500 per mo rent, with property management company taking $400 per mo for fees and $400 per mo insurance. The first set that were easiest to work with, they owned the homes outright, usually older, retired, or younger, and inherited parents' home. They put $1,500 of that away every month and have a $10,000 reserve set aside to fix the property. If a surprise $3,000 repair needed to happen, it would get done immediately. Then you had the speculative purchasers. They went and bought a house they could barely afford because it had 5 bedrooms, if you ignored county code and fire code, and called a divided basement with no fire exits 2 bedrooms, exclusively as a rental property. Their payments are $2,200 per mo, but they're getting $1,700 per mo from the property management company every month, so they're spending $500 per mo out of pocket. So long as those tenants pay and nothing breaks, they're fine. But if that place goes unrented for more than a week, this guy is calling every day demanding an open house to get tenants approved, because without tenants he's missing a payment to the bank. Surprise $3,000 repair. Don't call the contractor, he'll come by himself to fix it himself. Needs a new dishwasher. Craigslist special. She ran into a few of the second type, and they were the worst to deal with. They all figure they can do this for 5 to 10 years, flip the house as a get-rich-quick scheme, and come out the other end with $300,000 in equity, and reinvest that into 3 more houses they operate the same way. Well, if the house that is rented is mortgaged. If he don't get paid, if can't pay the loan. Then the bank might do it anyway. But in all fairness, the banks need to stop all payments of loans for a month so that extra money circulates around the economy. I understand that would have drastic effects on the financial institutions, but food in the mouth and a roof over the head has to come first. San Jose is putting a pause of evictions due to loss of hours due to Corona. I'm all for it, but it's not like they won't still owe the rent afterwards. Puts the renter in a huge hole, but they still will have a place. Landlords are kind of screwed. Wonder if this means the bank, and/or new owner, can't evict in a foreclosure too. Some landlords won't be able to pay pretty quickly. Sucks all around. Ideally the landlord can apply for mortgage payment deferral too, and everyone is, well, less screwed than they could be. It is kind of weird that someone has to suffer, and it will end up being the people who have the least. I would appreciate any business, person or company that makes an effort to split the suffering. I think this time is a bit different. You already see some strange companies stepping up with paid time off and other deferments, such as Uber and Walmart. I think it's because they realize they have to. Homeless people don't come back to work, much less shop. This entire situation is a big fucking deal, and the fact that gig companies are ponying up for contractors to take a break should tell you a lot in today's business climate. In the US, some 80% of folks are paycheck to paycheck. Most businesses and companies aren't shit without 80% of the population who currently work suddenly dissolving. Everyone needs to realize we have to get through this with as much of us intact as possible, or we won't get through it. That includes your business, rental property, whatever else. I'm a landlord and live in the fourplex I own. I know one tenant will be fine, she works for a non-profit social service agency that will be in operation. I am really worried about the young couple we have. They just barely met the income requirement when we rented to them and now they're expecting a baby in a few weeks. I really can't afford to not collect rent from him, so we've decided if he is out of work we will offer him some. One unit is currently vacant and being repainted, etc. The sooner it's generating income the more relaxed I can be for them. A couple of weeks ago I went out and did a huge COVID-19 shopping trip, toilet paper, canned goods, etc. I did plan to have enough to share if necessary. And #X200B, if my mortgage bank would give me a break I would definitely pass it on because karma can be a bitch. People forget that landlords are people with bills and families of their own to take care of. They wanna demonize them because they have this idea that they should get a house for free just for fucking existing, but honestly that's not how it works. Your house is a good that you pay for, just like food or booze or mechanics or whatever. My landlord is fucking struggling. He has been great to me in terms of rent increases. I pay the lowest in my building because he understands I'm a single mom of 2 kids, but I still have to pay it. He owes a mortgage and property tax on my building. The city is fucking screwing him on taxes on the new building he built. He has mortgages plus property taxes on everything else he rents out, and his flow of income is never guaranteed. He basically has to trust that we'll come up with rent every month so he can make the tax and mortgage payments. Plus he provides free water to all his tenants, so he's footing probably huge water bills on every single property he owns. He's not a douchebag. He's not a demon. He's just a guy trying to make a living for his family in the real estate market. No, the onus should be on the government for situations like this. A lot of landlords are people just like you and I. And even if they aren't, you can't expect a business to just eat costs for the next few months. If this disaster brings about any positive changes, I hope drastically increasing social safety nets is one of them. Homeowner here in the US. I hope they develop a program that allows leniency in a time like this. If you're renting a home from Joe Blow down the street, his mortgage payment is still due. So if he's lenient with you, what happens to him? A program needs to be developed that will allow both wiggle room in a national crisis. I don't know how to achieve that. Yes, but it needs to go further up the chain. Landlords have to pay their mortgages, taxes, and utilities, and they need to be given grace as well in order to prevent the burden to simply be shifted to them. I gave my tenant 1 month free and cut rent by 30% effective immediately. Yes, landlords should, but they also should get leniency from the bank as well. I absolutely think my landlord is scum, but he gets paid because he gives the product, service as agreed on a handshake, my word. When I lost my last job, I applied for gov assistance immediately to start the process to get his rent to him, and I wrote a short, polite email telling him the situation. When rent day came, I had enough to pay half and by then had information that within 2 weeks, I would probably get welfare, so I sent him a copy of that paperwork. Then made myself apply for any work at all every morning from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. My tiny savings were gone and it was scary. I received 1 welfare check and got a job and on the right track again. If I need to do this again, so be it, but he is much less of a prick to me now. So, it isn't that he should be lenient, but he likely will choose to be. I'd take you as a tenant in a heartbeat. Communication is the least you can do. Not only that, but you're actively trying to better your situation. Almost everyone struggles in a recession. Deleted. Not only should landlords should not collect rent, but banks should not collect mortgage. Landlords have montage to pay and utility bills to pay. In 2008, we taxpayers bailed out banks, and we have also bailed out utility companies, so all payments to them should stop as well. I have money in the bank, I can pay my bills, so I should pay them. If someone can't, then my paying my bill will make it easier for the companies that I pay my bills to be lenient. Putting people on the street in a pandemic will lead to more rapid spread of the disease. These are not normal times. Think of the public health first, not business as usual. I think the real issue is if the landlord has a loan on the property. Personally, I believe all the loan, mortgage, credit companies should have to cease for the moment. But capitalism is the true political party of most countries. Nothing will tank the economy faster than credit drying up. That's what the Fed is desperately trying to avoid. Pandemic like this showcases why a connected society cannot stay the way it has been. Massive social reforms are needed. I don't know what the solution is. I know many landlords are just people with a few properties and can't afford the income loss. On the other hand, millions of people are going to lose income through no fault of their own as a result of this crisis, and it's not fair that they end up homeless either. Ideally people will savings, sure, but the reality is most don't. Emergency universal basic income. If the Fed can inject $1.5 trillion in the market, then they can afford to give it to the hands of the American people who are suffering.